He's Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk Live as their co-host. Hi, Mike.
Hey, that was you in the gym? That was you?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry to call you out there, Mike. Seriously, how much can you bench, Mike?
Oh, God, I have no idea. Those days are long, long behind me.
Best ever?
Best ever, 220.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
I don't know. I'd say 220.
Was that one rep?
When I got to the point, I could do a couple, but I never felt confident putting any more on the bar. I was always afraid I was going to crush my chest.
You know, you have this stuff going on at the combine, and you know, it's paralysis by analysis, and now it's hand size. First, it was Kyler Murray's height. Now it's his hand size here. Like they're gonna work to find something that is going to convince somebody not to draft him here. What's more important, how tall he is, or how big his hands are?
I think the hand size is a bigger issue, Dan, because, look, you go from that college football to the NFL ball, and there is a fundamental difference. You try to grip a college ball, it's easier to grip than an NFL ball, and if there is an issue with hand size, that's how it manifests itself. You see a lot of fumbles. Remember Dante Culpepper, 6'5", 260, but he had small hands, and he had a ton of fumbles. So from the standpoint of being able to throw the ball, to being able to hold on to the ball, I think it's far more important. I joked earlier today that height and weight issues with Kyler Murray have been a convenient distraction from the possibility that his hands aren't big enough. That's really the metric that matters.
Are you all in on Kyler Murray, or you still got a question mark there?
I'm fascinated by what he could be. I'm concerned because when I see that he weighs 205, it's like, is he swallowing bricks? Like, you saw him at the week of the Super Bowl. We had Russell Wilson, and then we had Kyler Murray a couple of hours later. And there's a fundamental difference between Wilson and Murray from a bulk standpoint.
Yeah.
Murray isn't just short. He's like slight of frame. And if you start packing extra muscle on that frame, where is it all going to go? I mean, eventually he's going to be like more compact than Popeye. And at some point you lose some of your explosiveness if you put too much weight on. So that's what I'm concerned about is his overall frame, not necessarily how tall he is. And I also worry about this baseball angle, Dan, and he's saying all the right things, but there has to be a spot between 1 and 256 where below that spot, all of a sudden baseball sounds better to him again. And he can say he's all in with football for now. And if he's a top 10 pick, sure. Top 15, sure. At what point after 15? At what point after 20? At what point after round 1 is the point where he says, Oakland A's, I had another change of heart. I'll take your money again. Now, I don't expect him to fall that far because last year we had 5 first-round quarterbacks, and they all worked out, and I think quarterbacks are going to get overdrafted this year, and Murray's got that sizzle factor and the big upside. But that's my concern, that there's going to be somebody in a sweet spot that ends up not being very sweet if they draft him, and he decides, well, you know what, I was wrong about all of this. I'm going to play baseball instead.
Who's more employable, Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell?
I'd say Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell's just turned 27 last week, and he had a full year off, which means 1 year with no wear and tear of any kind. And I think the market for running backs, you get him dollar for dollar cheaper. You can deploy him as a pass catcher. At one point, he was justifying his contract demands from the Steelers by saying he's a number 1 tailback and a number 2 receiver. So I would want Le'Veon Bell before I'd want Antonio Brown. And also, Dan, you get Le'Veon Bell without having to give anything up. And that's the biggest impediment to trading Antonio Brown, because you have to make the Steelers happy with compensation to them. And you have to make Brown happy. He's made it clear he wants a contract too. So whatever you have to give up by way of draft pick compensation, that's less money that you're going to want to give Brown. With Bell, you can just blow it out and pay him what he wants, and you've got a guy who can be, a 3-down running back who really helps revolutionize your offense.
Do you agree with the report that the Steelers wouldn't send him to the Patriots or another team in the AFC North? Is that smart business on their part?
Wouldn't it funny that that's coming out the same time their GM admitted that only 3 teams have contacted them about Brown, which means 28 teams aren't interested? Like, why are you applying these grandiose standards to what you want for Brown when 10% of the league is willing to trade for him? And if it's the Cardinals or the 49ers offering a 5th-round pick, but the Patriots or the Browns or the Ravens or the Bengals say we'll send you a 2, how do you turn your nose up at that? We saw Donovan McNabb get traded in the division. We've seen Drew Bledsoe get traded in the division by the Patriots to the Bills. I think it all comes down to what you're getting in return, and I can't imagine. And just like with Kyler Murray, there's a spot below which you say, okay, that's a problem. And I think for the Steelers, there's a gap between what other teams are offering versus a division rival would be offering, or the Patriots, where you say, look, there's too much of a difference here. We can't say no to this.
He's Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk joining us, Dan Patrick Show. What happens next with Robert Kraft as owner of the Patriots, in your opinion?
Well, this one's fascinating because from his perspective, and all we know from Robert Kraft is he categorically denies the allegations. He's hired an attorney to represent him. I mean, he may indeed push to proclaim and prove his innocence in court, however long it takes. And the other side of that is I think the NFL would probably like this thing to go away sooner rather than later. And the statement the NFL issued yesterday, Dan, out of the blue, I think the purpose of that was to make sure everyone understands the NFL will do nothing on this case until the criminal case ends. So then you start wondering what's going on behind the scenes. Will the NFL try to broker a deal where, hey, if you make this thing go away quickly and as quietly as possible, not that quiet as possible at this point, but if it goes away without court proceedings and a trial and an extended embarrassment for the league, then that becomes a factor that we will weigh in your favor when we determine the discipline. And if that's the case, you got to think back to 2015 because Robert Kraft then chose not to appeal the penalties that were imposed on the Patriots for Deflategate, chose not to pursue any of the available litigation angles. He decided, you know what, we're going to take it because that's going to get a better deal for Tom Brady. And when Brady got suspended, he was livid because he claims he was led to believe that if he did the quote-unquote right thing by way of the penalties against the Patriots, Brady would be taken care of. So now he may not want to trust whatever winking and nodding, and he's going to want it all spelled out. If they approach him with some idea for making the criminal case go away quickly, and then they won't be as stringent with the punishment, that's got to be something he trusts this time because based on last time around, he'd have reason to not trust what the league says.
But I wonder as we move forward, because you can pay a fine, you can do community service, you can be suspended, but the one thing that you're never going to be able to erase is the embarrassment here. And you're the owner of the Patriots. Would he still want to have that title given sort of that feel that's going to be out there no matter where he goes? Is it better for the Patriots if he would step back or down?
And there's a sense that he was in the process of doing that anyway. And there's been a sense that at some point he's going to hand the keys to the car over to Jonathan Kraft and have Jonathan Kraft run the team. Just like there was a sense Jerry Richardson was going to sell the team at some point. And the thing that happened in late 2017, people say to me, oh, the league forced him to sell. No, he decided to sell. The league couldn't have forced him to sell the team, and the league can't force Robert Kraft to take a step back from owning the Patriots. But this is something that could be part of. And I think the best solution for the league would be if Robert Kraft imposes on himself a sanction that is viewed as fair and acceptable to take the commissioner out of that hot seat where he's got to worry about people being mad that he didn't go far enough, people being mad that he went too far. He's still got all those Patriots fans that don't like him as a result of the Brady suspension. So if Kraft can lift this burden off of Goodell and do something like just, accelerate whatever timetable's already in place to put Jonathan in charge of the team, that seems like it would be a potentially workable solution, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the way that it plays out. I'm not saying it will. I mean, again, all we know at this point is he categorically denies it, and that's a sign that he plans to fight it. And until we see otherwise, we have to assume he's at least considering the possibility of fighting this thing.
Do you think that there is a price that Colin Kaepernick would accept to play in the XFL or the AAF?
Well, I've seen the reports that he requested $20 million. And here's my threshold question. Is that his bottom line, or was that his opener in response to the very low pay structure that both of those leagues have? And if their response was, sorry, we're not interested in talking, he never gets to his bottom line because he's not going to ask for $20 million as his bottom line. He's going to say, all right, XFL, you're going to pay quarterbacks $250 a year. AAF, you're paying all your players $250 for 3 years. I want $20 million. And then they move, and then you move, and they move, and you move, and you eventually get to, $12 million or $10 million. But whether it's 20, whether it's 10, whether it's somewhere in between, you can make the argument that there's real value there. Think of how differently we would view the AAF if he was playing for them. Like his game, Sunday night, NFL Network, you're going to watch that game. Right now, you're like, who are these guys? And they're marketing the coaches. Hey, tune in to watch Steve Spurrier and Dennis Erickson.
Yeah.
That's the only names they can give us at this point, Dan. So I think that there's an argument to be made that there's value. Now, I think both leagues are concerned about going too far with chasing players and then becoming the next league that fails because it runs out of money. But I could make the argument that he's worth between 10 and 20 million, especially because if one league gets him, the other one doesn't have him. And the league that gets him automatically becomes the more likely league to survive.
Thank you, Mike. Good to catch up with you again. Thank you very much.
Hi, Dan.
That's Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.